Good evening, wrestling fans, and welcome once again to the Hager Hershey's Elk High School Wrestling Weekly, hosted by the Double Eagle Clubhouse Grill. Big crowd on hand tonight, and I think Dane said some of them may have went down and watched Ike wrestle this afternoon. We'll talk more about that later, but I think the topic at hand tonight's show will be the girls' state final that Dane and I spent 13 hours on air broadcasting over the weekend, and we have a big guest coming in tonight to talk more about that sort of thing. And I'll tell you what, Dane, I was tired.
Yeah, it definitely needed a day to recover from what was a long day. I hope that we don't have too many more years where that's attempted to be done in one day, but I think there's a lot of understanding from a lot of people that there's going to be some growing pains out of the first year with the IHSAA taking it over, but certainly from what we saw with the seriousness of the event and with the crowds and with everything else, you'd have to think that there's going to be some degree of change here in the very near future to get that tournament on a Saturday, or at the very worst, what would have been the harm in having a 6 o'clock Friday evening round and getting half of that, getting that round done and then having a much easier day on Saturday.
We'll talk to Gary about it when Gary gets in here, but if anyone was there that didn't think that it felt like a full-blown state finals, I don't know what they were seeing, because to me it was every bit the pomp and circumstance that the boys' finals was. The venue made it feel like the state finals. If you were on the floor and you looked up the first 20 feet, it felt like you were at Gamebridge. I mean, there was no difference there. The mats were the same. The scorekeepers were the same. Everything looked very much like the state finals, just like the boys.
Yeah, and I think some of the mishaps that they had more chalked up to being the first time that they've ever used that venue than anything else. You know what I mean?
They were just getting used to it.
Somebody forgot where the switch was on the lights when the finals started.
They've switched them on and off a couple of times.
Once they got there, then I think it was okay. But as Gary Myers enters the building after his triumphant weekend, and we're going to talk to him a lot here in our segments coming up. We'll also take a look at the upcoming team state, one of the reasons why Gary is here. We'll talk about the Adams Central invite yesterday that was held in Monroe. We'll talk about South Adams and their results up at Garrett. Of course, we couldn't get through this weekend on the show without at least mentioning and talking about the Wild Bill. Woodlands tournament.
I could get through it. I'm okay.
Woodlands tournament was canceled on Saturday. They've been running that tournament for 50 years. I remember 20 years ago going to that tournament when Jeff Heller was still in middle school. We went up and watched it. As a precursor to that tournament's always been the week before our conference tournaments here locally. I know a lot of guys around the state had their conference tournaments yesterday. In this area, it always seems like it's more the week before sectional. Of course, we'll also talk about the NE8 and ACAC tournaments. We will have the semifinals and the consolation semifinals and the placement round matches for both of those conference tournaments on Friday and Saturday. A very busy weekend for us. We'll also take a look at the new JV regionals, and we'll have Gary talk about that a little bit too. I think we'll highlight some local lads who were involved in that and talk about the JV state finals, and we'll give you more information on that. And of course, we still have 2 dual meets this week to call. We're not sure what the
do we though?
What the cold weather might do to Tuesday's dual meet between Carroll and Belmont. We're anticipating potentially Belmont canceling school on Tuesday. Most schools around here canceling school on Tuesday and potentially Wednesday as well. So would they be able to wrestle a match on Tuesday night in between 2 cancellations? I don't know. We'll find out. But Wednesday night we've got South Adams and Norwell. That will conclude our dual meet portion of the season. But we're just getting started, Rex. And I know this past week at the station, back at the actual job of making the sausage back in the studio, a lot of ads being sold for the tournament series here on WZBD. So a lot of advertisers and individuals and businesses getting excited for our Saturday-based coverage, which is, the next 5 weekends, essentially.
So that 13 hours is just prep work.
That's just a precursor.
That was training. We're just getting in shape.
Appetizer. Something like that. So, of course, shout-outs to everybody involved this weekend. And I know we'll talk about this with Gary here in the next segment, but there were a lot of storylines to this weekend, but the one thing that I think I enjoyed most was those same people that I remember busting their butt at Mechaniqua and Hamilton Heights almost a decade ago, they're the same people busting their butts and working hard yesterday in Indianapolis. And even though the IHSAA took it over and they added their own twist to it, there's still a lot of individuals that I'm sure Gary will be willing to name that really went out of their way to just give up a whole day of their life, not because it was their kid, not because it was their school, but because they cared. And I think that's what made yesterday so special.
So when you look back and you saw all the crowd there, I don't know, maybe Gary has a number of people that actually bought tickets and attended, but it was pretty full. And then you stop and think, it's not Saturday, it's Friday. And these people took off work. I mean, some of them may work or not have to work, but they were there in full force supporting their school and their teams. And it was on a Friday, started at 9 o'clock in the morning, and that takes dedication. It's like I took time off from work, so on, so on. I mean, there was a lot of people there for a Friday tournament.
Well, it's the same argument that we talked about 2 weeks ago, I think, on the show with the Al Smith, considering next year going to a post-New Year's date because they're concerned that they won't get the attendance if they don't have it on a Friday and a Saturday. They want that second day on a Saturday because that's what draws people in. And if you if you want to hold a big tournament and expect attendance on a weekday, on a work day, you're going to struggle with that. So, Rex, I see people walking in with High School Wrestling Weekly shirts on.
No way. Oh, you know why? Because he's our main title sponsor.
That's right.
That's the Hershey of Hager Hershey Zelt.
I like it.
Oh, and actually, I think there's a Zelt with him, too.
Yeah?
There he is.
And another guy who once put on a singlet and knocked a few guys around a couple times.
You know, if I'm going takedowns with one of those three, I know which one it's not.
Maybe we can get Blake and Dean to wrestle a little bit here during the intermission. What do you think?
I don't know if he wants any of that. So with that, we've ended our weigh-in section, and we'll be sending it back to studio. Steve Rouse, who runs the board for us on Sunday nights, does a wonderful job listening to us talk about wrestling here on High School Wrestling Weekly. And so let's send it back for a round of commercials, back with our first guest and the first period right after this on WZBD.
When faced with the difficult task of making arrangements for your loved one, many emotions and questions arise. What would they want me to do if they were here? Where is the money coming from? How much should I spend? Do they want burial or cremation? The staff at Haggard, Hershey, and Zelt Funeral Home can help you navigate these tough questions. Make your wishes known and allow us to make sure that your wishes are carried out. Call Ryan Hershey or Eric Zelt at 260-724-7167 to schedule an appointment today.
Renowned around the Midwest for his skills and his creative abilities, Nate Bowers and the team at Bowers Paint Studio in Decatur work with a wide range of clients, from collision repair to custom paint jobs for classic cars and motorcycles. Located on Monroe Street on the west side of Decatur, Bowers is your place for body work too, whether it's getting your ride back on the road or finally getting that classic car, the paint job you've always wanted. Stop by or give Nate a call to put the best in the business to work for you.
Welcome back once again to the Hager Hershey Zelt High School Wrestling Weekly, hosted by the Double Eagle Clubhouse Grill. And tonight, on Sunday night, it's always wings special. And I went with the wings. Dane has fallen into the cheeseburger trap, and it was cheeseburger and curds for Dane tonight.
Absolutely, and as good as it was 4 weeks ago and 3 weeks ago and 2 weeks ago, I think it was the burger last week on Sunday that got me through that sickness that I was battling.
Need some beef.
So Gary, if your boys here need a recommendation, the burger tastes awfully good with some cheese curds.
Wings are always good. Wings or burgers, either one.
Well, Gary, I made sure to make a point. It feels like yesterday. I guess it was Friday. To find you and shake your hand. And right before the finals, I sent you a text and said great job. But once again, congratulations this weekend. What a success! What a lot of fun.
It was. I'll tell you.
I get you.
Yeah, it was. It was. I was exhausted. I just tell you that I got.
Keep talking. I get you. Where you going?
The night before I started
there you go.
Setting up that tournament on a Thursday night. I didn't get out there till late. Got back up at 5 and got to the Coliseum and got everything set up for that tournament, weigh-ins and everything. But I'll tell you, I didn't sleep for 3 days almost. Last night was the first night I got to sleep. I left that Coliseum about 12:30 at night because I had to rip up I had a couple coaches with me and my son, and we ripped up the mats, put them on the 4 mats, and put them on the truck to get out of there. It was a long night. And then I had 3 a.m. I had to take the female refs. We flew in from out of state just so we'd have a different look and a flavor. We had about 3 of the nation's top referees, and I had to get them on an airplane. Then I had to go to wrestle in a conference, so I had to be at my school at 6 a.m. So I didn't even get to sleep for about 3 days.
Well, I'll tell you what, Gary, that was a great touch.
Absolutely. That's what I was just going to say.
Yeah, so there was a lot of people there. The only thing that there was a mix-up on was when you do a face-off at a finals of the state, they left the lights on.
Yeah.
And I looked at, and then they turned the lights off for the national anthem. I'm like, you can do that, but you can't. So that was the only thing for next year. I'm going to make sure it does not happen is the lights on for the introductions, the face-off. But because, they can do it, and they had the capabilities.
Well, I had a chance too. I had my camera up where our broadcast perch was, and there was a moment when 2 of the officials that you were talking about were working the same match. I think it was when McLean from McCutcheon was wrestling in the finals, and I just kind of zoomed out and took a picture. And it was so cool to see, really putting sort of the girls' side of things in focus for the girls' state finals. I thought that a female PA announcer was a really nice touch, and there were just some symbolic things that I think made a big difference in how the mood and how it felt.
So those were done on purpose. I would flat out tell you, Nadine Johnson, Kim Hernandez, and I had forgotten the young lady ref's name because that's one that Randall picked up, and I didn't get to talk to her much. But Nadine Johnson's been refereeing for 25 years. I'm getting ready to put her in the AU Hall of Fame this June. And Kim Hernandez was referee of the year last year, and I created a female referee of the year. So she'll go into that category. But we flew those ladies in from Texas, and they did a fine job. I didn't get to watch them all day, but they did a fine job. It was funny to watch them bark back at the coaches a little bit. One coach said something, and the other lady said, "That's it, it's final," and walked away.
Christine Dennison.
Yes, Christine Dennison. Yes, she's been here in Indiana. She's from Kentucky.
Yeah. And I know I talked to Randall Hayes the week before at Alexandria Regional, and he told me they were going to do that, and I said, that's pretty cool. And I tell you what, when those ladies refereed, I was watching their technique. I tell you what, their mechanics.
I started to say mechanics, yeah.
Kim Hernandez, her mechanics were phenomenal.
Yes, that's why she is Referee of the Year in 2024, and we'll give her award in June in Orlando, Florida. But I sought after Mayheb's wife, Dorothy Mayheb. She does all the USA Wrestling National Championships, World Championships, and the dual meets and stuff. So I don't know, at some part, the microphone I couldn't hear very well, so that's got to be kind of fixed because she does have a beautiful voice in Iowa because I went to personally listen to her. So all these people that you've talked to that we brought extra, I spent time with on purpose. Like I flew to wherever they were at to see if they would work out, and they were perfect. I want to give a big shout out to Pat Culp. Not everybody knows how to run a tournament. Everybody thinks they do. It's not easy. And what she does, her efforts are tireless. Every night she is working, these brackets for different tournaments and thinking outside the box. And that's how we came up with JV State, which would be, this next coming week. There was, 565 JV wrestlers.
Yeah, we'll talk about it here later in the show, but it seemed like it was a pretty big success. I think I'm actually going to try to make it for the finals on Saturday evening on my way back from Franklin in the middle school tournament that I'm at. But, Pat Culp, we noticed, we could see her because we were exactly opposite her and Marv Dreyer and a couple of other people. But, so much of their job on match day and tournament day is putting out fires.
Yes.
Sitting around waiting for something bad to happen and then trying to eliminate that problem as quick as possible, and she's so good at it.
And what people don't see in the stands are the things that are going on like that because she is Mr. Here's what people don't know. The internet went out. It was until 6 o'clock. It came back. We went back to the old handwritten pages. I don't know what you call that, but the
bout sheets.
Bout sheets. And that was through most of the day. People didn't know it.
I tell you what, it went pretty seamless. I mean, we had a glitch one time when we were running off the house Wi-Fi, and or else we wouldn't have been on broadcast. And it went out for a minute, and it came back, come right back. But we were on the air 13 hours, Gary, and I tell you what, our internet was solid all day long. And it wouldn't have been if I saw Robert, said, Robert, we got no internet. He grabbed a guy from the field house, and the guy says, what's the password sent to me? We went on, and it made us be able to broadcast. We wouldn't have been able to do it.
So Mr. Frogans came out the pad, goes, don't you have bout sheets? She goes, when you pull out the bout sheets, she goes, yeah, I've got them. And so this went on. And people don't see that kind of craziness.
Well, we'll talk about the wrestling here in our next segment, but let's finish up talking about sort of the logistical side of things. I thought the venue was wonderful.
Yes.
Rex and I spent much of the day debating how much longer the IHSAA will keep the semi-state at Newcastle, having wrestled in that building and seen how nice it is and how accommodating it is. That venue certainly falls in line with the quality that they have at the Ford Center in Evansville and at the Coliseum in Fort Wayne.
Yes.
And to me, that's the long-term home for that event, the girls' state finals for the foreseeable future.
Right, until they fill it up, right?
Yeah.
Until it's completely filled and then move on from there to another bigger building.
Do you know an approximate ticket number?
I don't. I won't know until Monday.
Okay.
I won't know until Monday.
What do you estimate it at? 4,000 probably?
Yeah. I can be safe to say that.
Because it holds 65, and at one point I probably thought it was between 75 and 80% full at one time.
Yeah, I'd be safe to say
for
that.
the first rounds.
Yeah.
Now, do you know what it was in previous years at Mooresville or at Kokomo? You know, remember what the ticket sales numbers were?
I'm not. I thought at one time at Kokomo it holds 7,000. Am I right? And it was about 5,000 there at the beginning, and then it
it disperses,
down the day.
right?
But I tell you what, the parking was easy to get in and out. The logistically to get there was fine. I mean, everything to me, I thought it was a perfect venue.
Yes, So it was the first time they were trying to get to know the place, but I think the next time you see it, it'll be so much smoother on the internal side that you still don't see. You know, it'll be nice.
Now, talk to us a couple of topics. One is sort of realignment and number of schools and what the tournament looks like in the future. But I think the big question on everybody's mind is the day. What does Robert say? What does the IHSAA say about Friday versus Saturday? And what do you think about that going forward?
So let's first explain what people on the internet just blatantly say. I can't believe it's on a Friday or this, but they don't ever ask the question, why is it on a Friday? Well, here's the why, and here's the why. There are not enough refs in Indiana to cover all the conferences, all the girls' state championship. There's just not enough, and it's an aging population of our refs. We're not really recruiting. We're trying to. And I know that every time we are to meet, they ask for new refs and we'll train you and all this. But it's the referees, and there's not enough coaches to be at the conference and at the girls' tournaments. It's brutal.
I think Dane and I talked about it on the way home. Until you get the Girls Association and the rest of the boys' high schools to understand, leave that date open, move that date so that you can share those referees, move your conference tournaments to like Friday nights or something. We got a lot of conference tournaments on Friday nights. Can they get them done?
I don't think there's a problem. I did because of the weather one year. We did a conference on a Friday night. It was perfect for us boys. There was no big deal. So I'm all for that.
Yeah. Well, we know that the IHSAA staggers the entire girls basketball tournament, and then they run their state finals, and then the next weekend starts the sectional for the boys. But the boys continue to play basketball regular season games the same week as the girls sectional. But I will tell you that the IHSAA doesn't really allow boys to play regular season games on the same night as the girls sectional is supposed to take place. So, there could come a point where the IHSAA just comes through and says, listen, this is when the girls tournament's going to be. You don't get to hold a tournament on that day because we got to have enough officials.
Yeah. I mean, that's the whole thing in a nutshell. There's just not enough officials.
And of course, it's more of an issue on the first weekend of the tournament because you need more officials on
16,
sectional.
Yeah, 16
right.
sectionals.
For the state finals, you only had 12 officials there, and you only had 9 of them from Indiana. So that's not as big of a deal. But I think the consistency is there. I still think that a Friday in early January and then transitioning to a Saturday the following 2 weeks is doable, and for the IHSAA's purposes would certainly help on attendance when it comes to ticket sales and the like.
All right. I mean, you could even move it to the 25th. I mean, I don't know. Just give you a 2-week training period. I don't know.
Well, Gary, you talked about coaches. More and more coaches are splitting off and and hiring full-time girls coaches. I think that's going to change. As the girls' sanctioned sport becomes a more reality, those guys are going to have dedicated coaches, and you're not going to be splitting coaches like that. You know, Chad Shepard, longtime coach at Western, steps down, takes the girls program. You know,
that's huge.
Now, did that hurt his boys program? I don't know. Did it help his girls program? Sure did.
Sure did. I'll tell you, we wrestled Western this past weekend, Saturday, and it was different not having him in the arena because he's a competitive, he's very competitive.
They all are. I mean, them Shepherd boys are cut from the same cloth.
Yeah. I was walking up in the parking lot. Are you guys going to jump me or what? They're like, oh, you're good, coach. But I was outside a building, which I've never been outside a building with them alone.
Well, certainly there's a lot to be positive about, and we'll talk about the rest. Like I said, when we come back in the next segment. But, the IHSAA, they're going to have to make decisions because I don't think they could have even imagined the growth as far as the number of schools that jumped in. Obviously, a lot of people were caught up on the realignment, and this team went to this regional, and this team went to this regional. I think it's going to have to be redone all over again next year. There's got to be 30, 40, 50 schools next year who didn't have a girl this year who are going to have a girl next year.
Yeah, and there was some regionals that people drove about 2 hours or so to get to. I'm not sure what went on there.
Yeah, I mean, we can look back and go, why did the state do that? Well, the state has to look at number of teams in areas, and they did it. That's a tough job, and they segment it. In boys, it's this section, it's lower section, another section, and then they split the north half.
Yeah.
For girls, it went 4 lateral sections across like that, and it's like people look like, how is that? I don't want to be the guy who makes that decision. Somebody else figured it out, and they did it for a reason.
Right. Well, they did look in there, and they seen that some schools didn't even have wrestling. So, like one region was going to be very weak because not many schools had girls. But there was other sections, just so many.
Yeah, well, certainly if you look at our local regional here, we didn't have any girls this year in Adams or Wells County. And the only schools in our sectional that had girls were Jay County and Blackford. And then you get down to that Delta sectional, and they didn't have many either. No. So to do that,
Cowan's like the only one in there.
That would have been a complete injustice to everybody to do it that way. So I certainly applaud them for doing it. It's just, there's going to be some growing pains here in the initial years, and then once you get to a steady number, it can work itself out. But we were talking. And I'm not sure how many people that were there on Friday went to a Mechaniqua regional 6 or 7 years ago. All of these complaints, they're all petty compared to some of the growing pains that we had to go through at the very beginning.
Let's say something about the very beginning. 87 girls competed for a state title. We split the state across I-70, and we had a regional up north and a regional down south. Do you realize how when we would go to the state at Hamilton Heights, we were actually filling 5th and 6th placers back into the tournament just to fill the weight classes.
There weren't enough 4th placers to go. And I remember those Mechaniqua tournaments just going past midnight into Saturday, and we had tournaments to go to Saturday with the boys' side of things. But
I was at Warren Central 12:30 at night a couple years ago.
Yeah. Well, it was a great success, and when we come back from this next segment, we will talk about the actual wrestling and some of the superstars that have emerged in the sport. We'll be back with more talk with Gary Myers right after this.
Based out of the Indiana Tech Wrestling Facility, the Warrior Regional Training Center is an elite training center for youth wrestlers, high school wrestlers, and college and senior level athletes. Featuring a college coaching staff with a strong history of developing talent and producing results, Warrior RTC will give any wrestler quality training partners to push them to new levels in the state-of-the-art 25,000 square foot wrestling building. The training is affordable and private training is also available. Put Warrior RTC in your corner this season. Wygand Construction in Fort Wayne is building landmarks that impact the lives and communities we serve. At Wygand, we believe that our most important responsibility as a building contractor and construction company is to stand by our commitments to our clients and to our community. That's why we believe in supporting high school athletics, where our local teenagers show their commitments to their teammates, their coaches, their schools, and their communities. Wygand Construction. Trust. Well built.
Welcome back once again to the Double Eagle Clubhouse Grill for the Hager Hershey's High School Wrestling Weekly, and we're still joined by Coach Gary Myers. And Gary, we've had a lot of conversations about the girls' tournament. Let's talk about the quality of wrestling as we get into the rest of the tournament. You and I and Dane have seen the wrestling caliber at Mechaniqua in the early days.
Yeah.
The wrestling this weekend, I mean, every round there was quality. I mean, technique was just through the roof. And I saw that last week at regional. The first round of regional, maybe a little bit weak, but I'll tell you what, the last 2-3 rounds of regional were really solid. And I saw the same thing at state finals this weekend.
Yeah, we've had 9 years, right? So some of these girls that were in 3rd, 4th grade have been training. So now that you see these freshmen are 34-0. Zoe Pugh from Hamilton Heights, who placed 4th, she had a number 1 ranked girl in the quarters from Whiteland. And she won like 7-6.
Was that the bout of the tournament?
That was probably the bout of the tournament. That was crazy.
I mean, it's the one that sticks in my mind the most.
That was the other girl looks like a phenomenal athlete. She's a freshman,
and neither one of them won. I mean, as far as we were both going into whoever wins this one may end up winning the tournament, and they didn't win it. But yeah, I mean, you used to come into that tournament, and if you had a really good girl, you could tell her, look, you're going to hit headlocks all day long, and you'll run into some stud, and she'll beat you. But then you come back next week, and you won't have to see her again until the placement rounds, and you can just headlock your way into a state medal.
Right.
Those days are long gone.
I mean, and let's think about the different levels. Like Kendall Moe, I'm bringing her from Hamilton Heights. I mean, she does year-round training. She has since she was in 3rd grade. So, I mean, she ran through those girls. It was a 20-second final. I mean, I would love to be in the state finals and only be on a mat 20 seconds.
Well, I'll tell you what. I interviewed girls at sectional and regional, and I'd ask those girls, what other sports do you play? And they said, anymore, I don't do anything but wrestle. I wrestle all year round. We went to Virginia Beach. We went to the Nationals. We went to Fargo. These girls are wrestling all summer long, and they're putting in the work.
And let me tell you, some of these girls can't make a basketball team, a softball team. What a relief to find some kind of sport that anybody can fit into. I don't care what walk of life you're in. Like basketball, there's certain requirements, certain skill. Not in wrestling. You make your own skill set. You work hard, and you'll be good.
No, and we saw it. We saw it all day Friday. Different body types, different builds, different types of athletes, different ages, different strength levels. They all mesh together, especially in those upper weights. And once again, we keep talking about Mechaniqua, but I'm going to keep going back to it because that was our initial experience with girls wrestling. The body types of some of those girls.
Yeah.
Thinking back to 6 or 7 years ago to now, there's so much more athleticism involved.
Yeah, so especially that heavyweight division, it was 286 because when I started, I just want no girl left,
Correct.
Not being able to compete. But every year they went to 250. And this wasn't me. This was the National Federation. But I did start it out at 286, and then it went to 235. And then everybody was complaining, like, oh, my girl's got to cut 235 to wrestle. I go, it's not me. It's the Federation. And IHSAA does consult me, every month about weight classes and everything. So, so the athleticism is increasing, and the more one-on-one coaching is increasing. You know how this started? I took 4 managers. They were sitting along the wall in my wrestling room. I just got done talking to Mr. Falk as I walked up to him, and I said, you're now wrestlers. And that was Markayla Pugh, now the head coach at Hamilton Heights. She was a state champion her first year, had 2 months of training. And I know it was a little weaker then, but the point is, these girls started out didn't know anything. And there are 87 girls in the state, so now how many girls do you think there are that signed up in the weight management?
1,800?
Oh, easy.
Yeah.
I think it was 2,400, but
okay.
I'd have to go back and check.
Well, certainly one of the storylines from this weekend was Markayla Pugh and the connection to that very first group of girls.
Yes.
And to her now being a coach and being out on the mat, I thought was a really cool connection, and one that is going to only grow as you see that first generation have their influence on the next generation. I wrote in my article today on WZBD.com that, Mallory Winter kind of bridges that gap.
Yes.
She was a phenomenal talent all the way back in 7th grade that they were talking about. Just wait till she gets to high school. She's going to be a state champ someday. And she dealt with the issues of 5 or 6 years ago. And now she's an IHSAA state champion, and some of these girls, especially the freshmen, they're almost to the point now where they probably don't remember some of the struggles of the very first year girls.
Right. Mallory Winter is an ambassador for high school wrestling.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. And she carries it with such calm. And I think for us, obviously, we're very biased because that's the reason practically that we were there. But, I mean, she broke down. All the other 3 years that she's won, she never celebrated like that.
Yeah.
And then she wins it a fourth time, and I think just all the emotion came out of it. She cried. And our good friend Juan Maldonado captured it perfectly. Just full emotion and tears to see what it meant to her. Not necessarily because it was IHSAA sanctioned, but she had climbed to the top, and it was legitimate for her and everybody else that's involved.
It's that relief. I mean, we know that team very well. Katie Riles is our 100-pounder, and she wrestles all summer long, and she gave up cheerleading. She was a cheerleader.
Yeah.
And I interviewed her, and I said, so a couple years ago when you decided to quit cheerleading and you take up wrestling, I said, you think you made the right choice? And she goes, 100%. No way. Not even close. Because she's got that competitive edge, and you can tell those girls who get beat and they are mad, and they come back the next match and just tear people up, they have that heart, eye of the tiger like you see the boys have had for years, and there's girls that they're getting it too. And some of those girls are just technically so strong.
Yes. It's funny. I wish some of my boys had that kind of heart because when they go back, I'm seeing them on their texting their phones and eating, and I'm just like, dude, I'd be so livid. I'd be in the locker room. I mean, like you could, the girls are bringing that back.
Yeah, and there's just so many storylines from Friday night's finals. One of the ones that we wanted to highlight, like Kinley Keffer came into the first period very obviously coached and personally thinking the one way I'm going to beat Kendall Moe is if I hit her with a headlock or a big move at the very start of the match. She went out there and did it. I don't know if there's too many boys who go into a state finals match thinking, I'm going to go into this with one move in mind, and I'm going to hit it or I'm not. Yeah. And she bounced right back up and took her loss and moved on. And you talked to Coach Basinger from Daleville. He talked about how proud he was of her and her demeanor and all of that kind of stuff. And there were some moments on Friday where I thought, there's no way a boy would do it like that.
Right. I wish Kendall would have stayed with the boys to see what that would have looked like. But, she made the decision she made, and we support her 100%, but I surely would have liked to have seen her on the boys' side.
Well, I tell you what, there's some of those girls that still get beat and they hug each other and stuff like that. We saw one match where the number 2 ranked girl in one weight class got beat, and she's walking off the mat, and the girl wanted to give her a hug, and she's like, no, I don't want none of that. She was mad, and you could tell it's like some places are huggers and lovers and stuff. There was no love in that.
But I think, too, a lot of that has grown out of the fact that these girls now know each other. They're familiar with each other. They have wrestled each other how many times over the previous weekends, whereas I mean, you used to go to those tournaments and you'd look at the bracket and it meant nothing to you because you had no idea.
Yeah.
It was old school, like, when you were back in midget and peewee and you'd just size them up, you'd give them the eye test, right? And that was it. That's the only thing that you knew about them. Right. Now, everybody knows everybody and knows what to expect, and that makes such a difference.
And I like the fact that Indiana Matt has picked that up because, boys have been doing that for years. Now the girls go to Indiana Matt and said, oh, Kendall Moe, she beat so-and-so and so-and-so, and Kenley Keffer has wrestled so-and-so. And down, I was interviewed the girl from Eastbrook, Haley Corporal, and it's like, who are you looking for next week? And she said, Isabella Ocampo. She said, I've lost to her twice. And she said that, and they know that. Yeah. They've wrestled them. They know them. I talked to Keffer, and she was runner-up in the nation this summer.
Right.
I mean, and they go all over the place, and she's like, it's the state-level match may not be as big a match as the one she's wrestled this summer.
Right. We do the Indiana-Illinois duels with the boys, right? We do it with the girls, too, as well.
Yeah, I actually heard somebody talking about it in the hallway. I heard a mom explaining to another mom, well, she's the highest placer of the seniors.
Yep.
And so
I run that. So me and Mike Soul from Mooresville, we just come together, the Girls Association and Boys Coach Association. We just said, let's just run it with the boys. And it's worked out perfect. We even added Iowa this past year. So it was what do you call it, triple duel or whatever, but it was Iowa and Illinois and us.
Well, we had Lara Boyd sit in with us interview section, and I asked her about the level of competition at high school and nationwide, and then what the college level is. She's assistant coach up at North Central Illinois now, and she said that the opportunities for girls has just exploded. Girls, Kendall Moe at 5'0", 105 pounds. What's she going to get a college scholarship in?
I mean,
nothing.
Now she's going to get a full ride.
Yeah,
wherever.
Yeah.
She wanted to go to the military academy at one time, like West Point or what have you. I don't know where she wants to do now with that, but she certainly has the full ride to do it. I mean, they'll pay for it. That's one thing that the first year. Do you realize that Markayla Pugh got a scholarship at Indiana Tech? She was first, second, sixth place, then second again. And she got a scholarship to Indiana Tech, but what happened to her was a year at Indiana Tech, she was hit by a drunk driver and about killed her. And it took her a long time to heal. I mean, it was bad. And she came out of that and offered her job, to coach the girls. And it's because she was very shy and timid after that car wreck. I mean, she had some problems emotionally, but wrestling has brought her back.
A little PTSD.
Yeah.
That's a great story. Hey, before we move forward with talking about girls team state in the next segment, I wanted to highlight a couple of storylines that Rex and I were talking about on Friday night. I thought that the contrast between interviews of the young lady from Milan, Kayla Rowell, and the set of twins from Columbus East, specifically Monica McMahon. Rowell talked about how she was the only girl on her team.
Yeah.
And she talked about the relationship she had with the boys' team and how they pushed her. Yeah. And then Monica McMahon talked about how her twin sister gave her everything that she needed to be a state champion. And I thought, just what a great display of how anybody can come from any background in this sport and find success. It doesn't matter whether you have 25 girls on your team. It doesn't matter if you're the only one on your team.
Right.
There's 2 state champions who came from very different paths but ended up in the same spot.
Yes. I think it's a fascinating. Milan. When I saw that, I just took a double look. It's like, that's the old Hoosiers movie. And I've been down at their museum, beautiful museum. But that little small school produced a great athlete.
Absolutely. And then we talked to Strayer on the way out, back to the car after everything was done from Crown Point, and we talked to her about the relationship with the boys' team. And I think that's I think it's understated how cool that is, that the boys are helping the girls but also supporting the girls.
Yes.
We see it a lot in soccer or in baseball and softball where there's almost animosity that the softball team gets this but the baseball team doesn't get this, or the soccer team has an easier draw but the boys have to do it harder. I've seen a lot of situations where the boys team has been really, really supportive.
Yeah. And
as we talked about in a couple of our interviews, there is nothing that happens in girls wrestling that isn't going to be helpful for the boys in the long term.
Right. I bring over Michael Kane. He's ranked 6th in the state at 165. And I'll say, Michael, can you come over and help me show these girls this? And he has a different take with them. He goes, now listen to me. When I'm running this half, you can't be nice. And he's going through it with them, but he's glad to help. But he's trying to get in their heads that this is not just a regular. He goes, when you get that wrist half, he goes, I want, he talks about the positioning, why we're in a position, or when we pull the wrestler over in front of us to run that half, or when we're out of position. But he talks it through with them, and the boys are glad to help. He'll stop in the middle of whatever he's doing and walk over and help. He could be going hard, too.
Well, I'll tell you what, we saw plenty of examples on Friday of girls who are not hesitant to run a wing or a half against their opponent. Yeah. That's for sure. Well, when we come back for this next segment, we're going to talk specifically about next weekend's girls team state. Gary's got the brackets, and we'll talk a little bit about what the format is and how teams qualified, and then we'll reveal those brackets right after this in this next segment.
Does your smile need work? Maybe it's time for a cleaning and exam. Visit Laura Kugelhahn, DDS, and her knowledgeable, caring staff at Complete Smiles on North Main Street in Bluffton. Dr. Kugelhahn would love to help you maintain your dental health or transform your smile. Whatever your needs might be, Complete Smiles is there to help you. Dr. Kugelhahn is currently accepting new patients. Call 824-3100 to schedule an appointment.
The staff at Haggard, Hershey, and Zelt Funeral Home is honored to serve the community we love and live in. Locally owned and operated by Ryan Hershey and Eric Zelt, we understand that each family we serve and each life lived tells a unique story. Our goal is to offer comfort, care, and dignity to all who entrust their loved ones to our care. We are proud to call Adams County our home and look forward to serving you for generations to come.
Welcome back once again to the Hager Hershey Zelt High School Wrestling Weekly, hosted by the Double Eagle Clubhouse Grill. We're still joining this segment with Coach Gary Myers, and now we focus from the individual state to the
and the consolation semifinals and the placement round matches for both of those conference tournaments on Friday and Saturday. A very busy weekend for us. We'll also take a look at the new JV regionals, and we'll have Gary talk about that a little bit too. I think we'll highlight some local lads who were involved in that and talk about the JV state finals, and we'll give you more information on that. And of course, we still have 2 dual meets this week to call. We're not sure what the cold
do we though?
What the cold weather might do to Tuesday's dual meet between Carroll and Belmont. We're anticipating potentially Belmont canceling school on Tuesday. Most schools around here canceling school on Tuesday and potentially Wednesday as well. So would they be able to wrestle a match on Tuesday night in between 2 cancellations? I don't know. We'll find out. But Wednesday night we've got South Adams and Norwell. That will conclude our dual meet portion of the season. But we're just getting started, Rex. And I know this past week at the station, back at the actual job of making the sausage back in the studio, a lot of ads being sold for the tournament series here on WZBD. So a lot of advertisers and individuals and businesses getting excited for our Saturday-based coverage, which is, the next 5 weekends, essentially.
So that 13 hours is just prep work.
That's just a precursor.
That was training. We're just getting in shape.
Appetizer. Something like that. So, of course, shout-outs to everybody involved this weekend. And I know we'll talk about this with Gary here in the next segment, but there were a lot of storylines to this weekend, but the one thing that I think I enjoyed most was those same people that I remember busting their butt.
We got second in the regionals.
I was talking to Jason Cook, and he said that last year Hobart had 4 girls. This year they had 24. How do you increase your team by 20 people in one season?
I can't even do it for the boys.
Yeah.
Every year I got about 16 boys, but we make the most of it.
Yeah.
To interrupt, I just got a text from Pat Culp that says she is, in fact, the better half of the relationship.
That's what I said. That's what I meant. Better half. Just the technical.
That was never in doubt in my mind.
Yeah, the technical side of this, because I'm not. She'll tell you that. I just her and I just try to come up with the ideas to help wrestling on a different level. Not what's already been done, but what can happen. You got to understand. The JV wrestlers want to leave the wrestling room after Christmas. There's nothing for them. But now I can keep them on the mat, help the other guys get ready for sectionals, then regionals and semi-state and state, but keep those kids longer in the wrestling room because they have something to shoot for. There's something at the end of the rainbow for them.
Well, Gary, the boys have had the team state way back before when the ITSAA sanctioned it, and it didn't. Did the coaches for the girls' teams embrace this totally?
Yeah, I didn't have anybody turn it down. It's just that that one sectional, there's just too many injuries.
Yeah.
But every one of them said yes immediately. Yeah, I didn't have to worry about it.
So tell us what we've got. You got a 16-team tournament.
Yep.
You're going to go double elimination all the way out to 12 places?
To 12 places, and we'll just wrestle it out. And
this is going to be at Fisher's on Saturday.
Yes, Fisher's on Saturday at 9 a.m. start time. And you got to have the brackets. You can read them off because nobody knows them yet but you and I.
Okay. Well, so I assume you got 8 mats set up or 4 mats. You're going to do it in
8.
Perfect.
So in the top bracket, you've got Maryville taking on Mount Vernon.
And the winner will wrestle the winner of Jennings County and Hobart. And then the losers will go the opposite way. So it's one of those classic 16 team brackets.
Our friend Eric Myers will be happy. They are in the next spot as Jay County will take on Lafayette Jeff.
And Lafayette Jeff, a program with a lot of success over the last 10 years on the girls' side. And a pretty tough draw there because they would wrestle the winner of North Montgomery and Mooresville. And Mooresville didn't quite have the elite talent this year when it comes to state medals, but they were an awfully good dual meet team all the way through the season. So your top half of the bracket there, Maryville will wrestle Mount Vernon, Jennings County will wrestle Hobart, Jay County will have Jeff, and Northmont will wrestle Mooresville. So I know I would have to review because despite what some people may think, I don't have all of the rankings memorized at all the time.
Well, who does those?
Yeah, some guy.
It's you.
So Mooresville ranked number 3.
Hey, before we get off that, I asked him, does the Girls Wrestling Coach Association have a Hall of Fame? And have they assigned it to him be in charge of it yet?
No, we do, and he can do it.
Well, I'm in charge of the boys one, so don't give me that crown before I'm ready for it.
The other thing we said is that I think the first 2 inductees.
You got it.
After Gary and Pat.
Oh, yeah.
After Gary and Pat.
You're in.
Jay County's number 4 and Mooresville number 3. Now, of course, Maryville down at 8 in the dual meet rankings, but they've got the top-notch talent. Obviously, we saw that this weekend with a state champ in Cantu, a state runner-up in the other Cantu.
Third or fourth for the other one?
Charisma Lawrence, and you could name off half of their team from just being there on Friday. So a very talented pool of teams there in the top half of the bracket. Down at the bottom of the bracket, then, it looks like Franklin Central. Were they the 2 seed there, Gary? Does that sound right?
Yes. Let me double check here.
Franklin Central's at the bottom of the bracket, so they will wrestle Frankton at the beginning, and they'll have the winner of Western. And you said that New Haven had backed out, and they're going to be replaced by Rochester.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes, correct.
So Western and Rochester winner taking on Frankton and Franklin Central. I have Franklin Central as my number 1 dual meet team. So, and we saw plenty of individuals from them at the state finals on Friday. So that's a good quarter bracket. And then the other quarter bracket there in the bottom half will pit Whiteland, who was my preseason number 1. They fell down to number 6. They lost a duel with Mooresville 37-36 earlier this year. Whiteland will take on Wawasee, and Lawrence Central will take on Penn. Those are your 16 teams involved for Team State, 15 of them winning a sectional in Indiana, and one of them the replacement team for the New Haven Bulldogs. And I guess I have to brag. I know Franklin would have lost to Whiteland. They were in the same sectional, if I remember right. And Warren Central, I think they were in the same sectional as Franklin Central. But beyond that, 7 of my top 9 made it into to the Team State duels. So
a little self-patting on the back.
Pat yourself on the back there, Dane. So what can fans and teams and coaches expect from Saturday? Anything else? Any other information out there? Obviously, the IHSAA season is kind of over, but we're still following same IHSAA rules, still a 2-pound weight allowance.
Yes.
All of those types of things, eligibility-wise.
Yeah, grades, everything. Everything's in play. So it's not like the season's over because we're going to still apply everything. But as far as the tournament goes, I mean, it's going to be crazy toward the ends. I mean, you're going to see 2 of the top teams. The first time, we're going to prove it, the top 2 dual meet teams in the state of Indiana. Now, some of them provided are not healthy, right? We understand some of those are not healthy. But, as the boys state championship comes, that doesn't matter. Either you're ready to go or you're not. So this will come down to attrition, right? Who still has the girls left?
I talked to people this weekend after the tournament, and they said, well, are the girls as tough as the boys? You think Ava Lynn Mosconi's tough?
Yeah.
That girl wrestled her last 2 matches with an arm that was just nothing left of it. And the coach says, you're done. And she's like, no, I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not done until I'm done.
Yeah, actually, I'm pretty sure Chuck Barnett kind of told her you're done. And she looked Chuck in the eye and said, yeah, try me.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure I saw her sitting at the state finals on the floor. I don't know if one of her wrestlers lost or whatever, but she didn't look happy, so I don't know what happened.
Yeah, that was a great tournament from her, despite the fact that she suffered that injury. And she ultimately didn't win her weight class, but she proved a lot to me, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so any other information here on Team State, Gary?
No, we just have JV left.
Yeah, the JV state tournament. I had the local ones pulled up because I wanted to highlight some of the results. At Huntington North on Saturday, Belmont brought 4 boys to the JV regional. Jordan Burkholder, the backup, he's been at 113 and 120. He goes 2-1 and finishes in second place. Landon Sealscott, who has been in and out of the varsity lineup depending on where Gabe Myers has been and where Ethan Curtis has been, he goes 3-0 with a couple of nice wins. Cade Cutler has wrestled a couple times for Belmont and been varsity. He goes 2-1 and finishes in second place. And Isaiah Herman goes 2-1 and finishes in second place. All 4 of those boys, to the best of my knowledge, talking to the coaches over the weekend, are going to be competing at the JV state finals, and that'll be Saturday at Ben Davis. What else did you hear from your other 3 sites?
I think probably the weakest site was Plymouth area, but the other one, mostly there was probably over a couple hundred at each regional site. 225. I don't know. We'd have to double check, but I know that. Pat thought there was 565, and I could be wrong. But Plymouth was the one that had the less numbers in the region, I think.
So I think for you, obviously, you've got this tournament, you run it,
yep.
and you get coaches who participate in it, and they go back to the other people that they talk to who are coaches also, and they say, hey, this is a great event.
Yeah.
We're glad that we went, and
Yeah.
then next year those guys sign up and they bring their guys with it. It's quite a different setup than freshman sophomore state.
Right.
So yes. I think that's something that maybe there was just a little bit of uncertainty.
Yeah.
But we've talked about this with the girls' side of things when it comes to coaching staffs. Coaches have got to decide where to take their manpower and where to put it, and who to send with whom, and it gives more opportunities for some of those assistant coaches to grow. We need more coaches in Indiana.
They need more reps too.
And so, they go off away from the eye of the varsity coach, and they take the 4 or 5 guys to a JV regional, and they build up their strength as coaches.
Right.
And as we try to grow girls wrestling, the next logical step for me is not necessarily separating the boys' teams from the girls' teams, but getting girls' teams dedicated coaching staffs
right.
who are willing to work with the boys' team, sometimes cross-training, sometimes not. But you need that. We're going to need more head coaches and more assistant coaches who are competent enough to coach a girl to the state finals.
Right.
Now, and we can't do that without giving them opportunities at tournaments like this.
You know how many times Markayla said, hey, I'm running late. You know what she does for a living? Works at a funeral home, and she picks up people who have passed away.
Hey, guys, hear that? Hager Hershey.
We got some funeral home workers right over there.
He's got one of his coaches that she works at a funeral home. Title sponsor right there. But, Coach, a few years ago, one of the problems was getting these girls matches. When you look at these records, these girls 35, 40 matches, the tournaments, the coaches and these schools that really embrace the girls teams, the Penns and stuff, they have their Sarah Hildebrand tournaments, things like that.
Right.
Columbia City had a 64-team tournament this year.
Yeah.
Now, the only way you can do 64 teams is because they don't have full teams.
Right.
Bring them in. But I tell you what, the just like having your JV guys finally getting enough matches, you got girls that are getting the number of matches. And that, like I said, getting reps, that's the only way that these girls are going to get to the next level is getting more and more matches and just getting touches on the mat.
Well, let's talk about JV girls, the girls that never got to go to the sectionals. Do you know that we're having JV girls state along with the JV boys state?
That's awesome.
Cool.
Because up to, and a lot of people maybe don't realize this, up until this year, you could enter 2 girls at one weight.
Yes.
And the IHSAA said that's not how we do things. We're not going to do it this way.
Yep.
And that took away some opportunities from some girls. There was times I remember going to an old Mechaniqua tournament where you'd end up with 2 Penn girls in the finals, and they would kind of duke it out to figure out, okay, who deserves top dog status.
Yeah.
That's not possible anymore with the way the tournament is set up.
Right. So they definitely went away from that. So I bet that brought the numbers down considerably, but going into the sectionals.
So Gary, when we went to full-blown IHSAA sanction, when girls know that they don't have to wrestle boys, what do you think the percentage jump up was for girls that came into that knowing they didn't have to wrestle boys anymore?
Well, I can only tell you that what we have 1,148 girls last year, and it's almost doubled.
Yeah.
So I don't know what percentage of that, but I can tell you this: the parents are a lot happier.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if I want my daughter in there. I don't know. I mean, if you're a parent that never wrestled, for me, I'm good with it. But if a parent, you've never wrestled, don't know much about wrestling, you'd be scared of that.
Well, the Heather Crawls, the Giuliano Campos, the Kendall Moes that have wrestled boys their whole life, I mean, their families are used to that, and they made the decision. I want to wrestle against boys. Went from Giuliano Campo placing 6th, getting the first female ever to place in the boys section. She's been ranked number 1 all season long.
Yeah.
She is the favorite. Kendall Moe is ranked 6th. There's 2 senior girls and 4 freshman boys in between them. Yeah. Now, do you think either one of those have a chance of winning it? I think both of them do. I think, we just thought, would that be cool to have them meet in the finals?
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
You're talking about Mrs. Curl.
Yeah, Heather Curl.
Heather Curl.
Kendall, yeah.
Heather Curl.
Yeah. Them in the finals, what would that look like?
Well, Heather Curl won Fargo this year. She's number 1 ranked girl in the nation in her weight class.
Well, as long as they're split bracketed, we could see it. It's possible.
Well, Gary,
Grace would go crazy. Go ahead.
We thank you for coming up here tonight and telling us more about the tournament, reminiscing about what was a great night Friday night. I'm still over the moon about how much fun it was and how great our broadcast went and how many people tuned in and have read our stories and consumed all the content that we created. And we just scratched the surface. We were only following 12 to 15 girls for the most part, and we knew very little about most of the other girls. So we hope that builds and grows over the next couple of years. I was really encouraged, not just by the baked beans and the mac and cheese that was up there.
Yeah.
But there was a decent amount of local print media up in Media Row.
Right.
Of people who had come there to do their normal job of covering a sporting event and writing back home and getting it in the local papers. I'm hoping that 5 years, there's a dozen times as many local reporters to the point where it's just as full as what we see in the boys' state finals at Gainbridge.
I mean, the Hamilton County Reporter, all big and bold letters, Mo wins state. So it's like, he was there. I usually interviews me, but I'm seeing him walking around. He was very interested. He's like, this is crazy.
Dane and I, we spent a lot of time on the air, and our YouTube channel is out there, and people knew about our YouTube. I was sitting away from my wife to come out of the store today, and I looked, and we over 1,500 views have went and watched or listened to that broadcast from the state finals.
Wow.
Yeah, and we went ahead and we cataloged all the interviews that we've done so far at the regional and at the state finals, and we put the full YouTube broadcast out there and tried to put some storylines in there for people to follow. But it really comes down to, taking an interest. Take a look at those girls and read about some of those storylines, and then follow them the way that you do the boys through the summer wrestling series, when the season starts back up again next year, through Indiana Mat, whatever it is, and keep helping the sport grow.
Yeah, and you can go to a lot of Facebook pages and have their clubs on it. Just watch the girls where they're at, the nationals or whatever. You can keep up pretty easy.
Well, with that, let's send it back to the studio for a round of commercials. We're back with our next segment right after this here on WZBD.
You don't always need an attorney, but when you do, the man to call is Brad Weber. Brad has extensive experience in most legal matters and will help you make your problems disappear. Keep this number handy, 452-7045. That's 452-7045. You just never know when you'll need the services of an experienced litigator like Brad Weber.
Shop local. It's a phrase we hear all the time, but for the staff and family at Package Liquors, it means something extra. Package, with locations in Decatur, Monroe, Berne, and Markle, is a local family-owned business that has been serving local communities for decades. We take your support and patronage and return it by supporting local athletes on WZBD and donating to different organizations across Adams County. The next time you're deciding where to shop, shop local. Shop at Package. It's where your friends shop.
Welcome back once again to the Double Eagle Clubhouse Grill for another segment of the Hager Hershey's Elk High School Wrestling Weekly. And Dane, we got a pretty nice crowd in here tonight. Did you find out? Did Ike wrestle today? Was he?
Yeah, he had a tough one against the kid from Ohio State, but he continues to sort of intrigue everybody here in Decatur. And I know they had a big crowd over there in Columbus, and everybody loves Ike. And the social media department at Purdue does a great job. If you're a casual fan or you have a hard time kind of following with it, whatever social media platform you use, whether it's Twitter or whether it's Facebook or whatever, they do a great job. Do some great graphics, and they keep you up to date and try to keep you going. So between Friday's duel, with a ton of Decatur people at Mackey Arena for the IU duel and a ton more over at Columbus, certainly getting excited as the high school season gets into its postseason. We start thinking about the Big Tens and the NCAAs, and what a thrill it would be to see Ike wrestle in Philadelphia, I think is where it is this year. So we're going to turn our attention now to the boys' side of things here for the second half of the show. Adams Central came away with a very hard-fought, close victory over Prairie Heights in the AC Jet Invite this weekend. I noticed that Adams Central added an 11th team to the field, and that kind of changed Phil's format for how he did things. But Adams Central comes away with the win by 7 points over Prairie Heights. And, Brett Smith may smack me upside the head the next time I see him, but I'm starting to wonder if the field, if the committee didn't make a mistake with Prairie Heights. The NECC was really, really deep. They invited East Side. I think that Prairie Heights team was probably better than we realized way back in December, and they certainly showed it this weekend. Talking to a couple of Adams Central people before the show, they got a couple of studs who are going to go really far and represent Prairie Heights, just like on the girls' side at the state finals. I think at the boys' side too. Let's go ahead and look at those Adams Central results from a team perspective. Ezra was 5th, and Miles won at 113. He beat Braden Bass from Prairie Heights in the finals at 120. Colton Everett finished in 5th place at 126. Cale Beer lost to Tristan Elmore in the finals. He got pinned. He was 4-1 otherwise and took 2nd. Jackson Bingham also took 2nd. He got beaten by the other Bass kid from Prairie Heights. And at 138, you weren't there. My dad and I went to Cowan, very first match of the year that we did. And I talked to a couple Cowan people, and I'm like, who should I know from this Cowan team? And they're like, one, the 138-pounder, and the other, the kid at 175. Well, the 138-pounder tech-falled the kid from Homestead in the first one, and then beat Dylan Ogg 5-2 in the championship match.
Is that Ogg's first loss?
I would have to think about it.
I think he was undefeated at the Belmont match.
It might have been. Off the top of my head, you might be right. His name's Ashton Goney from Cowan, and he's incredibly talented.
38 at 44.
38. And he beat Ogg 5-2. At 144, then Adams Central still with a forfeit there. Brody Hagewood is your champion. At 150, Brayson was your champion. He beats Matthew Sen from Fairfield by tech fall in the finals. At 157 then, we were talking to Dean earlier before the show. Mav takes 3rd place. He suffers 2 real quality losses. Jackson Bradley, of course, a returning state medalist, knocks out Dubois, and that was by tech fall, 19-3. Brock Hagewood from Prairie Heights takes 2nd. It looks like Hagewood beat Dubois 6-2 in that match. So still some really good matches for Mav. That was at 157. We talked earlier in the week, or at least, well, you probably didn't hear it because you were doing the Belmont-Yorktown match, but Brayson went back up to 150 and Mav went back up to 157 from where they were at Team State. Seems like that might just be where they are destined to stay. The other Cowan kid that I was talking about was Noah Modglin from Cowan. He looked very impressive against South Adams. He was your champ.
What weight's that?
That's at 165.
Okay.
I said 175. He's down to 165. And he looked very impressive. Adams Central, Jarrett Smith took 4th for the Jets at 175. A good reminder that Adams Central got Evansville North to sign up for that tournament last year. That didn't happen because of the snow. This year they made the trek north. And Matthew Pegram of Evansville North is your champ at 175. He beats Jake Thrash of Homestead, who we saw last week. Xander Schwartz from Adams Central finishes in 6th. At 190, Max Nussbaum takes 4th place. At 215, Ethan Funk finished in 3rd place. And then I noticed that Adams Central's Gavin Rumpel won his first match, but then ended up forfeiting out medical. So hopefully that's not a serious injury for them because, Rumpel's exciting to watch. He won a match on earlier this week when we were, I don't even remember what day it was. The week is such a blur to me. When we were at Delta, he won a match 1-0, but we saw him lose a match against Tell City, which was really a win for the Jets when he lost 12-11. I've been joking with a couple people from the Adams Central crowd that had Rumpel won that match 13-12 or 12-11, we wouldn't have had any of the fun of the way that dual meet ended with the craziness with team scores and ties and all of those types of things. But Rumpel's he's a gamer, and despite being a little bit lighter than some of those other heavyweights, he goes after it. He'll shoot on the legs. He's not afraid to snap a bigger guy down.
DDD Maintenance and Repair, owned and operated by Shane Reynolds, has your local professionals for heavy-duty truck and diesel engine repair. DDD Maintenance and Repair also offers full-service sand and glass blasting for your surface restoration projects. Whether it's getting your heavy-duty truck and diesel engine running like new or sandblasting your project to look like new, we have a blast renewing the past. Give Shane and the guys a call at 260-223-5442. That's DDD Maintenance and Repair.
Renowned around the Midwest for his skills and his creative abilities, Nate Bowers and the team at Bowers Paint Studio in Decatur work with a wide range of clients, from collision repair to custom paint jobs for classic cars and motorcycles. Located on Monroe Street on the west side of Decatur, Bowers is your place for body work too, whether it's getting your ride back on the road or finally getting that classic car, the paint job you've always wanted. Stop by or give Nate a call to put the best in the business to work for you.
Real quick. Take a look at those South Adams results here real quick. At 138, Eli Loshi went 1 and 2 and did not place. Wyatt Mann finished in 3rd place for the Stars. Braxton Huff went 1 and 2 and did not place. Nick Brewster went 0 and 2. Nathan Plattner finished in 5th place. He went 4 and 1. That was a bad draw for him. 4 and 1 and getting 5th. Wes Somerset finishes in 4th place, but Dominic Dunn, a really quality wrestler, as is Paul Woods from Leo. So that's not a bad result at all. And then, of course, South Adams with those 3 forfeits up top.
Now, our buddy, I always forget, I call him by his nickname, Jeff Colburn. Colburn.
Yeah. Don't call him by his nickname on the show.
He used to always live in Granger. Well, he introduced himself being from Marcellus, Michigan last time. So Marcellus, Michigan, my southwest corner stuff, that is where Ted Nugent has a chinchilla ranch in Marcellus, Michigan. There you go. Little fun facts.
Eric Myers is listening right now, and on his High School Wrestling Weekly bingo card, he's going to cross off Ted Nugent's chinchilla farm.
There you go.
I appreciate that. At the Wild Bill, it was Mechaniqua with a close 8-point victory over the Snyder Panthers. West Noble takes 3rd, McCutcheon 4th. Host Concordia was 5th. Also was interested this weekend in the Conference Indiana. Whoops. I clicked on the wrong thing. They don't have team scores. That is an odd thing. How can they not have any team scores? Here we go. I was really interested to see how Bloomington South and Terre Haute South and some of those others went. So Bloomington South wins that. Where's the championship round? Bloomington South won 47-28. Another one of those conference tournaments held this weekend. And the Hoosier Crossroads, it was Brownsburg by 94 points over Avon. Our buddy Hunter Bates finished in third with Fishers. Westfield was fourth. Hamilton Southeastern fifth. Zionsville sixth. Now don't forget, Zionsville was originally invited as one of the top 8 teams in 4A.
And they passed.
And they take 6th place in that conference, behind Brownsburg and Avon, 2 teams that were ranked ahead of them, but then Fishers, Westfield, and HSE. That is one tough conference, the Hoosier Crossroads Conference. Of course, conference tournaments this weekend coming up. We'll have the ACAC for you on Friday. That'll be live on the radio.
Where am I at?
That is at Adams Central. We're still trying to find out. Maybe Dean can tell us.
Hey, Dubois.
Are we going to be in the hangar or are we going to be in the new gym? In the old one? Okay, we'll be in the hangar on Friday. Oh, they're going to have another mat over there? Oh, in the new part. Okay, so it will be in the new part. Well, you'll just be able to hardwire right up there. You just need to bring a cord long enough to get you in there. So, and then, of course, we'll have the NE8 tournament for you on Saturday. The NE8 also hosting their JV tournament on Friday. So we'll see what some Belmont boys do for that. We'll also see whether or not the Belmont boys compete on Friday night and then wrestle on Saturday. I don't know if they necessarily will.
I may stop by our good friends at Innovative Concepts and see if they have a 75 or 100 foot long Ethernet cable.
You know what? They might just do.
They might have one made up already.
So we'll talk about the NE8 and the ACAC more here in our next segment. But right now we'll play a set of advertisements from our supporters and be right back after this.
Hello, this is Joel from your local hometown Packaged Liquors. Packaged Liquors provides the best selection of domestic, import, and craft beers in Zeeland. With locations in Decatur, Monroe, Bern, and Markle, you're always just a short drive away from picking up the perfect last-minute gift or just the right six-pack to watch the game with friends. You're never a stranger when you walk through the doors, and our smiling staff never has a problem giving you a recommendation when you're not sure what it is you need. Stop in at one of our 4 locations and see what hometown service looks like. Packaged Liquors. It's where your friends shop.
When faced with the difficult task of making arrangements for your loved one, many emotions and questions arise. What would they want me to do if they were here? Where is the money coming from? How much should I spend? Do they want burial or cremation? The staff at Haggard, Hershey, and Zelt Funeral Home can help you navigate these tough questions. Make your wishes known and allow us to make sure that your wishes are carried out. Call Ryan Hershey or Eric Zelt at 260-724-7167 to schedule an appointment today.
Once again to the Haggard Hershey Zelt High School Wrestling Weekly, hosted by the Double Eagle Clubhouse Grill, and we are graced with the presence of some of the guys from the Haggard Hershey Zelt Funeral Home, and we always appreciate the support. And Ryan Hershey wearing his 3.0 shirt, got his 3.0 shirt on, and he told me the other night, he said, my son's going to wear his to school tomorrow. I said, I can guarantee you he'll be the only one to have that shirt on tomorrow.
Well, we're getting excited for the ACAC tournament. It's one that's close to my heart, and when it comes to the ACAC tournament, now that it's on Fridays again, I really appreciate it even more. We look at some of the matchups that we might see. You talk about Cale Beer and Dakota Sprunger is one that pops up. Sprunger winning at Garrett this weekend. Beer having a great tournament. Southern Wells throwing a guy into the mix, potential champ in Jaron Frauiger at 138. Obviously, Aug takes a loss this weekend, but certainly very much a favorite there. You've also got at 150, you've got Brayson and Jay County. Robinson's there, I think, right? At 157. We haven't seen Isaiah Meyer in a couple of weeks now. If he comes back, that throws a wrench into a lot of people's brackets. and certainly adds some team points for South Adams and takes away from some other teams. We'll see whether or not he's ready to go. Mav also, a big favorite there to reach the finals. And, we haven't talked much about him, but Jax Litchfield, I don't think he's had too many losses this year. And he's a kid that has wrestled a ton. He's not your typical heritage wrestler that just shows up at the beginning of the very first week of practice and progresses throughout the year. That's a kid who has aspirations of being, a sophomore 175 semi-state qualifier, ticket rounder, a junior state qualifier, by senior time a state placer. That's the kind of trajectory that they think that he's on. Now, as a freshman at 175 coming out of the Carroll Regional, I don't know what he's going to be capable of, but we're certainly going to get a better look at it when it comes to this weekend.
So as we look at our schedule this week, it's kind of up in the air depending on what the schools do. But the plan is that Carroll versus Belmont at Belmont on Tuesday, correct?
Yep.
And then Wednesday, where were you at?
Wednesday will be at Norwell for the South Adams match. Maybe we'll see Isaiah Meyer then. We don't know.
You on YouTube or you on 927 for that?
I think that was on 92.7 as well.
Then you need this. I got to give you this before we go.
Make sure we swap our equipment here. I can double check. Yeah, Wednesday we're the only show in town.
But I will need this back before Friday night.
Well, you could just give it to me on Tuesday.
We don't know if we're going to be together on Tuesday.
But I'm going to need that if I'm going to need that.
We'll just take them both.
Well, what are you going to have on Tuesday?
Oh, because we're not
together. Because I'll be there. Because if we have it, then I'll be there. See, it's all that simple.
Because it's you and I Tuesday.
That's right. And then as we look further down, I'm interested to see what some of those upper weights for Jay County, what they bring. And honestly, I haven't seen much of Jay County this year.
I saw. No, I didn't.
No. So, it's a team that I've seen some results. I feel like they're one of the top 10 teams in 2A. But what are they going to do when they put their full lineup out there against some known quantities, at least from our perspective? They could be a dark horse in the team race there. On the NE8 side of things at Columbia City on Saturday, of course, Ocampo's going to come in as the favorite. She's ranked number 1 at 106. New Haven going to be a heavy favorite. I think 120 is a really deep weight class for that conference. We saw Gabe Myers down at 126 for Belmont. Is that going to stay? Is he going to be back at 32? Does Henry Farrow follow him? I don't know. There's some questions there that maybe we don't have the answers to.
Is Doster back?
We don't know if Doster's back. We know that Malachi Tholner, the freshman from New Haven, is a really quality wrestler, and he's dropped down to 138, so he could add a different dimension in there.
That Harris kid?
Yep, and Sean Harris. We've seen Sam Wolpert have some great matches this year. He took a loss, I think, at the NE8 duels that he'd probably like to avenge. I wasn't there because I was covering the ACAC in the morning, but that's one to look for. As you get up to 165, you've got Gavin Davis and some other guys. He had a really good match with the kid from East Noble, Biddle, in that dual meet. The sky's the limit for Gavin. We know that. We want to see him be at his best and wrestle the best because that's when he's the most fun to watch. So looking forward to that on Saturday. And then, let's get a second shot for Grady Baker against Isaiah Kuhlman on Saturday. That could be a great one. But don't discount Chuck from New Haven, Charles McGrant. Another big kid who's really, really strong and who, Kuhlman and Baker could easily be thinking about each other and overlook him. Grady can't overlook McGrant, that's for sure.
That match I saw between Kuhlman and Baker was 1-0. Baker's behind 1-0 with 15, 20 seconds left to go in a match, and he gives up a takedown. Looks 4-0. Looks like it's not a close match, but that match was a lot closer than the score showed.
And for Belmont fans, I think, a lot of times you go to the NE8 tournament or you go to the conference tournament, and Belmont's been expected to win. And there's been other years when Belmont's been the favorite, and they lose a couple of big matches, and they end up getting second. There's not many years that they've gone into a conference tournament, maybe going all the way back to the Randy Kirby days of Columbia City. Belmont's the underdog. Belmont's going to have to do something special to win this weekend. But I think that's exciting. I think that's exciting for Belmont fans to have that opportunity to say, hey, everybody thinks New Haven's going to win this thing, but they're going to have to take it from Belmont first before they can celebrate.
Yeah, I tell you what. Hey, we got one more break we need to work in here. Let's. That's the big guy.
That's my brother from another mother.
That's the Iron Bear right there.
That's right.
Let's take one more commercial break here, and we'll be back with our final segment here on WZBD.
Based out of the Indiana Tech Wrestling Facility, the Warrior Regional Training Center is an elite training center for youth wrestlers, high school wrestlers, and college and senior level athletes. Featuring a college coaching staff with a strong history of developing talent and producing results, Warrior RTC will give any wrestler quality training partners to push them to new levels in the state-of-the-art 25,000 square foot wrestling building. The training is affordable and private training is also available. Put Warrior RTC in your corner this season.
The staff at Haggard, Hershey, and Zelt Funeral Home is honored to serve the community we love and live in. Locally owned and operated by Ryan Hershey and Eric Zelt, we understand that each family we serve and each life lived tells a unique story. Our goal is to offer comfort, care, and dignity to all who entrust their loved ones to our care. We are proud to call Adams County our home and look forward to serving you for generations to come.
Welcome back to the Double Eagle Clubhouse Grill for our final segment here on the Hager Hershey Zelt High School Wrestling Weekly. And as the week winds down, Dane, so do I. I mean, we put a lot of time in driving and a lot of time on the air on Friday. I think the work we did was much appreciated by the girls and everybody that was at the girls' state tournament. We were commended by the commissioner himself for the time we put into it. Gary appreciates us being there, and that's all we need, right?
Agreed. And I even got a message from a guy that I wouldn't have expected to compliment us, and that was Paul Beitler from over in Wells County. And as we mentioned earlier, not a single girls wrestler from Adams or from Wells County, but Paul said he listened and tuned in all day. I got a text from my mom who said that she listened to the coverage all day, and it was a lot of fun to sort of bring those storylines from the Ukrainian war refugee who made it to the state finals at the beginning, to Mallory Winter's title, to the heavyweight championship match, to the story that you told about the young lady from Attica. It was a great set of storylines and certainly something that will follow into next year.
Hey, Gary, this is something that Dane and I have talked about. I think sometimes the boys kind of take our coverage for granted. I tell you what, those girls really appreciate us. Yeah, they do. And, I mean, the fans will come up to us after. Fans I don't even know, from schools I don't even know, said, thanks for being here. We appreciate your coverage.
Well, we look forward to Tuesday, of course, Belmont hosting their senior night festivities against Carroll. A quick look at the Carroll lineup for those who are listening and interested. Carroll comes in with the top 20 ranked 106-pounder in Joseph Warner. They also have a semi-state ranked 132. That should be a great match between him and Gabe Myers potentially. At 165, August Adams from Carroll is ranked 9th in the semi-state. So a good opponent for Gavin Davis to sort of end his Belmont home TP career. And then at 285, Carroll's heavyweight is ranked in the state, and Grady is not. So, if you're trying to find a reason to come out, you shouldn't need one. But if you really do need a reason, Grady Baker against some of those top heavyweights in the state is an incredibly entertaining 6 minutes, and sometimes you get an extra minute and a half, 2.5 minutes to come with it. So, Carroll, not a bad team by any means. They are certainly going to challenge Belmont, I think, more than what Yorktown did this past week, and it'll be worth coming out to.
So, Dane, what are you going to do tomorrow night when the national championship game's on? You going to be in front of TV watching that one?
What else do I have to do tomorrow night?
Yeah, I tell you what, my favorite, the Shane Gillis commercial talking about. I loved it. So
well, thankfully for Sean Ferrot's sake, he can watch a football game without having to worry about missing a wrestling match, because it seems like every time Notre Dame's played the last couple of weeks, it's been at the same time as a wrestling meet. On Wednesday, then, of course, we'll get a good look at South Adams and Norwell, and if you're interested in that one, Josh and I are going to try to, throughout the broadcast, work our way through the sectional seating and the implications that the ACAC and the NE8 tournament will have on what sectional looks like. And, it's really hard for people to project. I think you're going to have a heck of a team race when it comes to our sectional here locally in just 2 weeks.
Now, you talk about coverage on WZBD. There's a boys basketball conference game, but then you and Matt covered that girls Belmont-Norwell game, and you said that was a fantastic game. I mean, there's some really good girls basketball teams in this county and in this area.
Absolutely, and we're going to be covering a lot of basketball games here in the next 2 weeks as we get prepped for the state tournament. Don't forget about I was trying to think of our next game. Oh, on Saturday, after you're done with the NE8 tournament recs, we'll have Manchester and Adams Central, and then on Sunday we'll have the bracket reveal show for the girls basketball sectionals and regionals, and that's a really big one for local teams because after last night, everybody just can't wait for the rematch of Belmont-Norwell. And I thought it was interesting. We looked at the 6-team bracket when I was writing the story. Belmont has more wins, not counting Norwell, than the other 4 teams in the sectional combined. So when people say, well, they got to win them first, no, it's going to be Belmont and Norwell. It's either going to be in the first round or in the semifinals or in the finals, but you got to be there.
So now we're still on Sunday night next week because the big game is after that, right?
Yeah, we still got 2 more weeks on Sunday.
Okay.
We will come on after Bob Lovell next week. I think it will be around 7:05 when we go, and we'll preview the sectional seating meeting while also reviewing the conference tournaments that we covered the week before. And then we'll have wrestling sectional for you on February 1st. On February 2nd, that's Sunday, we'll talk about the regional brackets. We'll take a look at the other regionals in our semi-state. And then on February 9th, the day after the regionals, that'll be the Super Bowl, and our show will be on Monday, February 10th. And I think outside of revealing the team state brackets, which is always a lot of fun, but as far as local fans are concerned, that's my favorite show of the year, where we make calls out. We take all of our local guys that made it to semi-state, and we find a tidbit or a coach or someone who knows something about either their first-round opponent or their ticket round opponent so that you're ready to go for what is essentially 12 hours worth of coverage, it seems like, on semi-state day.
We'd like to thank everybody that has made their way out to the show tonight. I'd like to thank Steve for hanging with us. Had some problems back at the studio, but I think it's just the weather. It's just too cold for all the equipment to work everywhere. But I tell you what, it's been a great week of sports. I totally enjoyed the girls' state finals, and that's something I'm going to look forward to for a long time here in the near future and in the next coming years.
Absolutely, and I guess my parting message is, Gary Myers, you are the man.
The Iron Bear. With that, we're going to sign off for another episode of the Hager Hershey High School Western Weekly here on WZBD.